Tell me about the ESPN rankings. And you should have brought that up. See what I'm doing now? I'm handing it to you. I'm spoon feeding you the topics. Open wide. Say Here
is there
comes
an airplane?
The train. Ooh.
All right. So ESPN released their rankings last week. They give updated rankings. I think every 2 weeks they have their MMA analysts come together and they vote on it. Their middleweight rankings drew a lot of ire last week. So number one after that fight was still Israel Adyssanya. Where do you think Sean Strickland ended up on the list? Because as you can see, it's not number two.
Yeah, well, I know what it is because it's my
podcast
and we do it. But number 5, what is all that about?
How is that?
Harrington, just jump back on. Just before we break this down, I want to know. So when you say there's a bunch of analysts at ESPN, who are those analysts? So who are the people? Because obviously there's a panel that make these decisions. You know what I mean? So who are these people? It would be handy to know.
So I know for sure one is Megan Anderson. I will look up. Brett Okamoto is the staff writer who wrote the article, so he must be on there. Give me 1 second. I will look up the full list.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. I'm just looking at the article. Brett Okamoto, of course. Shout out Brett Okamoto. Great guy. Really
I feel like I want to text him and see if we can get a response from him by the end of the show and say, how did that happen?
No, please text him now. Well, I just give a little bit of the story. Yeah. You text him, take a second to do that, because it would be great to have, because I would actually like to know their reasoning before we disagree with it, because that doesn't make any sense to me. But on the article here, it says, despite Strickland now owning the middleweight belt, Adesanya remains top of the 185-pound heap in the latest ESPN divisional rankings. Strickland moves up in the top 10, but he remains far from the top. Among the other divisions that saw some upheaval is Rose Namajunas. Okay, nothing to do with that. It is kind of crazy because, look, listen, I can understand why some people may say, I think Israel Adyssanya is a better martial artist because maybe he can do some moves and maybe his reflexes are faster and he's got some amazing kicks and all the rest of it. But what it comes down to is being effective in a fight, being able to beat the other person in a fight. This isn't a ranking for style points. This isn't a technique standpoint. This is the fighter's ability. And Sean,
how effective is he?
How you effective you are. And Sean clearly showed 4 rounds to 1, almost finished him in the first. It's crazy. He was clearly the better fighter that night. Who knows? Maybe the rematch is different. Maybe. But as of right now, the facts are the facts. And Sean Strickland, without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, should be sitting nice and comfortable at the top of that perch, on his lofty perch, wearing the crown as the number 1.
Well, and to not even, so maybe you feel like Izzy had a bad night. Maybe you feel like he had the worst night of his life. And Brett
Harrington, while we talk, sorry, Anthony, I was going to Google it. Just look it up, Harrington. If you can Google who the panel is. Sorry, Anthony.
No, you're fine. But even if you believe that, okay, whatever. Adesanya had a really bad night. Strickland had the night of his life. I'm still going to put Izzy at the top. You still should put him at 2. Like he's a champion of the world. Like, how do you put him in front of Duplessis? Or I do understand the argument though for the Cannonier thing, because you can say Cannonier beat him unless you watched it, and then that's a different story. But I thought Cannonier won that fight, I thought Sean Strickland won that fight against Cannonier. But either way, it was really close. So I'm sure some people will say, well, Cannonier has a win over him. Doesn't matter. Sean Strickland has the belt.
And that's not the conversation we're having, because the reality is you're only as good as your last fight, right? Izzy's last fight was garbage. It was garbage. It was.
He never currently ranked. Not like Cannonier beat him a year ago. Like, the current rankings mean that means the champion is number 1.
So here's Harrington. It's Brett Okamoto, Mark Rimonde, Jeff Morgenheim, Megan Anderson, Ian Parker, I know Ian, Reed Coombe, you will know Ian as well, Andres Water, Andrew Feldman, and Eddie Maisonette. Well, someone needs to take a bassinet to the head of these people. They're out of their minds. How the hell can you have Israel Adesanya still at the top of the pile? That's wild. The champion has one name, and that is Sean Strickland right now. And whether you like it or not, whether how much of a fanboy you are of Izzy and you respect the body of work, that's all well and good. But his last fight, he got beat 4-1.
Right.
And you got to give Sean Strickland his due. He deserves that.
You know, I was really hoping Brett Okamoto was going to answer, because I guarantee he's got to agree with it or disagree with it. I bet he has a fantastic answer.
Yeah, I'm going to text someone right now. You just talk a second, please.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't. It's just the whole thing is weird. It's what, like, I think the best way of saying is you're only as good as your last fight. Like, it's not necessarily. I don't even know. I don't know how you win the title and you're not ranked number 1 in your division. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Brian,
get the tinfoil. It's a conspiracy, bro. It is a conspiracy. Sean's too popular. They're coming for him. They're trying to silence him. Okay. They're coming after him. The mainstream media are coming for Sean Strickland.
I'm just sitting here agreeing.
Russell Brand.
Please preach.
Well, there's just something suspect about the way the rankings broke out, because Jared Cannonier is above Sean Strickland. So it's like, if you're telling me you can't base these rankings off of one night's performance, you're still going to put Jared Cannonier, a contender, over the champion when those two fought, and it was razor close. Like, a lot of people think Sean Strickland should have won a split decision there, even though Jared Cannonier did get the win. So it's crazy to give Cannonier that bump and not Strickland over Adesanya.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I guess if we're looking at it from that perspective, if that's the criteria, and I'm assuming you've got Brett, we would have Jared at 1, Sean at 2. I don't know.
It's a fair. This is why I like Brett Okamoto and why he is the person that he is in the position that he has, because he makes things make sense. He doesn't just do things willy-nilly. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand the concept.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
It's one of the most unique ranking situations we've ever had. Basically, Sean beat Izzy, but that is his only top 5 win ever. He just lost to Jared. So if you're arguing Sean is above Izzy, it's the same to argue that Jared should be over Sean.
Yeah, we said that, yeah.
And Izzy beat Jared. Jared lost to Rob. Izzy beat Rob twice. In a nutshell, Izzy's record in the recent years still is better than Sean's, even considering the loss. He'd be favored if they fought again. It's like if Oklahoma beat Georgia in football this week, would they get all the first place votes in the following week? He doesn't think they would, and he's probably correct.
So, and there is definitely some sound logic to that argument.
That's a good word to use. Logic.
There's logic.
He used logic in the explanation.
And there's definitely sound logic there that is kind of hard to argue against.
It's hard to argue.
However,
all I can say is I disagree, but I can't tell you why.
Well, no, because I do feel that being the champion of the look, listen, we were talking rankings. Sean's the champ. It's impossible to get any higher. Everyone's vying to be in that position. I understand the logic. I do. And when you break it down logically like that, oh, great. Right? But this sport isn't about, your history. It's what have you done for me lately? You're only as good as your last fight. Right. And yeah, we can hypothesize and come with an explanation. Is he still the top guy? Mm-hmm. But the reality is they always say to become the man, you've got to beat the man. Well, Sean just beat the man and he took his belt off him and he took his title and he's the world champion and he gets to call the shots. He's the number 1 guy. Right. If I was champion, the reason I'm saying this, and listen, I'm nothing against Izzy. And in fact, the opposite. For some reason, people seem to have this narrative that all I do is kiss Izzy's ass, which is not the case at all. I've got nothing against Izzy. But if I was the champion of the world, and they still had my opponent that I just beat ranked at number 1, I would be pissed off.
Oh, I'd be throwing a fit. I'd be, and then I wouldn't care about the logical response. Like I wouldn't care. Like no way. I'd just be losing my mind.